because it's the silly, stupid, fascinating, weird, wonderful. They're my people, and more often than not, they're the geeky people as well.
I mentioned Betamax. For anybody older, that's the old version of a video cassette. Video cassette is an old version of a DVD. A DVD is not set on the cloud. Another episode of Faith and Geekery. My name is Mark, and this is
Becca.
Hello. You are meeting me today briefly down in my living room, where I don't know if you can notice, but there might be something a little bit different about this direction. But first of all, Becca, how are you doing? You okay?
I am magnificent. Yes. Very well, thank you very much.
Fantastic. And already we've got comments flying in. Lydia is happy to and excited. I know he's already dropping a spoiler, by the way, so that's going to come in thick and fast. And Brandon is also here as well. So already there's a little bit of buzz and excitement, and people taking part, which is always good, especially on a live stream. But what have we been up to this week? Have you been up to anything geeky, Becca?
Well, it is with the change of season, it means that I'm swapping out all of the prims, the digital landscaping stuff from one sim to another sim to make it feel Christmassy. So it's all about the details.
Brilliant. And I have been busy building, and I've just referred to this earlier, but for those people only listening wouldn't have a clue. I've got a TARDIS behind me, or that being said, a bit of a wooden, a wooden box that is starting to take some sort of TARDIS shape. And also there's a Christmas tree there as well. And I'll tell you what, I'll show you something else as well. In the main Christmas tree in our living room, can you see? It's a little Lego reindeer, because we have loads of transparent baubles with Lego minifigures in, just to kind of add a little bit of geekiness into our living room. So this is the TARDIS that I've been building and working on, and I managed to put the doors on just a couple of hours ago, just for you lot. The scary thing is how big it is. So for people who can't see this on here, is basically the base of this is 1.5 meters by a meter and a half. This is a massive size.
It's bigger on the outside.
It is. It really is. And people keep on asking, it's like, oh, how's the TARDIS building going? It's like, I can't believe that I kind of saw the kind of original schematics, or took a photo of the original schematics down at the Doctor Who exhibit down in Cardiff, and I was like, oh, I'll put that on file for later. And 10 years later, or however many years later, I've kind of used it, and it was only literally putting the thing together as they're going, oh my gosh, the TARDIS is massive. It really is big. But I wonder what everyone else has been up to, what geeky things you've been getting up to. I think some of you may have kind of put things up on the Geeky Gallery, what you've been up to. But feel free to leave a comment below, and just let us know what geeky things you've been up to. Shall we move on to the geeky news?
Let's move on to geeky news.
I'm gonna disappear for a moment, and then I will rematerialize upstairs. So I'll see you in a moment.
Mark has exactly 1 minute and 12 seconds to get upstairs as we watch the geeky news.
Welcome to Geeky News, and we start off with the sad news that the singer Shane MacGowan from the Pogs has passed away earlier this week. As Christmas comes, I'm sure we'll be hearing lots of times the fairy tale of New York being played in his memory. Talking of Christmas, there is good news for Macaulay Culkin as he's finally been awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In computer game news, there is a buzz and excitement about Grand Theft Auto 6 because a trailer has been leaked onto the internet. So we're all abuzz and wondering what goodies that may involve. That is, if you're a fan. Next, there is also Willy Wonka comes out on Friday, and more trailers have been dropped, and it looks fantastic, really. I look forward to seeing how that comes out. And finally, with Christmas news, there is also good news that which is interesting, really. In the world of digital and online things, there is still excitement over the Radio Times Christmas edition, which has got a release date of Tuesday, the 12th of December. So that's really exciting. That's all for Geeky News. Thank you. Hello.
Welcome back. Impressive.
I got here in record time and then suddenly realised I'd left my bit of paper down there. I've left everything down there, so never mind. We'll see how we go. It's... yes, Lydia said, yes, I do indeed have a TARDIS. So yes, I could have just used that. I could have jumped in, got there in a split second. So yes, I'm slightly out of breath now as well, which is a bad thing. We are not alone talking about Doctor Who. I'd like to introduce us to, well, in fact, we haven't talked about Geeky News, but we'll bring on David as well anyway. Hello, David.
Hello, everybody.
David's webcam is a little bit jittery, but his audio seems to be good, so all is well. First of all, anything from the Geeky News, Becca?
You know what? The Radio Times, I don't know what it is, but if I've not bought it, and I used to buy one for every single lounge in the care homes that I worked in, just because there's something, because I'm not sure I even use it properly. It's like one of those big programs from a festival. I just turn up and put on whatever I want to watch. But yeah, there's something about the Radio Times that I just love it at Christmas.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic and something very practical and hands-on. You can like highlight stuff and all that kind of stuff is very exciting.
I remember my mum buying it and it being now it's nearly Christmas now.
Yeah. But again, in the same vein, for me, Fairy Tale of New York is the one kind of track that I absolutely adore. And I think it goes back to the fact that my dad used to love Kirsty MacColl, and then she passed away, and that kind of became quite a nostalgic kind of track as well, and a quite emotive one. So to hear that Shane's passed away as well, that's been quite sad. Interesting times. I'm trying to remember actually what I'd actually recorded in the Geeky News now. But never mind.
What was the thing in the middle? There was something in the middle.
Macaulay Culkin's star on the Hollywood.
Culkin.
Yeah.
It's well timed for this time of year, isn't it? Because I don't think it's quite Christmas. There's a few Christmas movies that I have to watch, but Home Alone is definitely probably top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe, have we got our Christmas, is it, which way around is it?
Next week? Are we having a Christmas one next week or the week after?
Yeah, that's a very good point, isn't it? So I think we've got a Christmassy sort of one with Tom, and then the one after is the Christmas specials, generally speaking.
Oh, sorry.
So we've got a couple of specials coming up. But first of all, we've got David. Welcome, David, to the show. I think I've known you for at least 13 years now, I think. And I did mention the Cardiff experience because we both went to that, and I can't remember how long ago that was.
That was just about 10 years ago, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Just before the 50th. All things are measured in Doctor Who anniversaries.
Doctor Who anniversaries.
Yeah, it's a good measure. It's a good measure.
It's a good measure of time.
So we're going to deep dive into Doctor Who in a little bit, and already people are giving a little bit of spoilers away. We should mention, Becca, you've not actually seen this week's
I
episode,
have let down the side by not preparing for the Doctor Who special because I don't yet have a TV license. But if you would like to crowdfund that at the end of this series, yeah, I have not watched it this week, but I will watch it. I just need to be in the right house.
Yeah. No, that's completely understandable and completely fair. Should we come on to our quiz questions for this week? Would you be happy with that?
Let me find
So, I was going to say,
note.
please find a bit of paper and pen. I've got 5 questions, and so folks at home, don't give anything away in the comments just yet. But these are all time-related ones because I realised that last week, Becca, you did kind of some Doctor Who ones because I watched
Disney.
Yeah, Doctor Who and Disney. I wasn't around last week, but I still tuned in. I listened to you on the podcast.
Well done, good and loyal servant.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. So, and so I wanted to go broader. So these are kind of time travel related, time travel related questions. So, the very first question is number 1: Who wrote The Time Machine? First published in 1895. Who wrote The Time Machine? First published in 1895.
I think I know that one. Yeah.
Very good. We're going to move on to question number 2. I've got to say, I was quite amazed at this one, and it was something I stumbled across this week. I wasn't Googling it, I kind of came across it on social media. What date ties both Marty McFly and Back to the Future and the Goonies? What date ties both Marty McFly from Back to the Future and the Goonies? Because supposedly both of the things happen on the same day. And I hadn't realised that.
What's the question again?
What dates ties both Marty McFly from Back to the Future and the Goonies? Suppose there's a bit of clipping going on our audio. I've turned me down a little bit just in case it's me. So, question number 3. There is a little bit of noise, isn't there? Question number 3 is: the 1981 film Time Bandits was written, produced, and directed by who? So the 1981 film Time Bandits was written, produced, and directed by who? Better. And then question number 4: what device in the Indiana Jones franchise changes the course of time? So what device in the Indiana Jones franchise changes the course of time? And by that is taken from the blurb of the film itself. So I won't take any abstract answers. It's like his whip.
Damn it! That is going to be my answer. His brooding stare.
And then, final question. This is quite a broad spanning one, but name one of the characters or creatures voiced by Miriam Margolyes or played by Bernard Cribbins throughout the Doctor Who universe. So name one of the characters or creatures voiced by Miriam Margolyes or played by Bernard Cribbins throughout the Doctor Who universe. And I'll be generous, I'll give you a point for any one that you know. And I'm more than happy to be corrected, but I believe there's actually potentially 4 answers for that. Okay. How are we doing? How do we think we're done?
No idea.
Okay, shall we just go through a question? Shall I ask you the answers to kind of question number one? In fact, shall we see, folks? I wonder how you've done at home. I wonder how you're doing.
Let me have a look.
No one's actually commenting so far because I've just said it. Hence,
well,
oh yeah,
Lydia has left her last remaining brain cell. I think I found it, but then I might have accidentally eaten it with my spaghetti, Lydia. So it served neither of us.
Fair enough.
It was delicious, though.
So, question number one: who wrote The Time Machine? First published in 1895.
This might be the only answer I have, which is H.G. Wells.
Fantastic,
fantastic. Did he appear in Doctor Who? Were you aware of that? He has appeared in Doctor Who's character in years and years and years ago. The character of H.G. Wells.
Well, that's impressive. I don't remember that.
Oh, it was in a pre-modern story.
Wasn't it H.G. Wells as well who voiced the Decepticon in the Transformer movie or something?
That was Orson Welles. But yeah,
Orson Welles.
Very good fact. Quite
sorry.
He wasn't quite that old.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I knew it wasn't kind of tallying somehow. Orson Welles, yeah, of course.
Okay, it's a great fact though. Orson Welles in playing Unicron in the Transformers the movie. That's a very geeky fact.
That is a very nerdy thing to know.
I could always return back to that another time. Anyway, because I know another fact as well. Anyway, what ties both Marty McFly in Back to the Future and the Goonies? Do you know what date it is?
I've got 1985.
That's the year.
Does that count? Can I have half a point for that?
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not bad, is it?
I'll give you a third. Third of a point.
I'm assuming
David, have you got any more?
They set off on the car on the film, but I had no idea what that date was.
It was the 26th of October, 1985.
See, that's quite impressive that I remember any number.
But what's really crazy is that the Goonies go on their adventure the day after when there's the newspaper, which is the 25th or 24th or something. And so when they go down into the pirate ship, it's spoiler. It's the 26th of October 1985, and so it's just quite bizarre how they share the same date. Then the film, The Time Bandits, was written, produced, and directed by who?
I think it's
someone from Monty Python.
Yeah, I think it's Terry Gilliam.
That is correct.
Do I get a proportion of a point for that?
I'm gonna be mean and say no, but the right ballpark anyway. It's then what device in Indiana Jones franchise changes the course of time?
The Ark of the Covenant was my only answer.
Well, it's the actual title.
I don't know.
It's the title of the last film, which is The Dial of
Dark
Destiny.
Crystal.
Haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
Soon to arrive on, I think, Disney Plus, isn't it? Very shortly. I keep on seeing adverts.
I thought it was already on.
Or something. Well, it might be already on. I seem to remember seeing a trailer rather than a thing on it the other day.
But yeah, it's the Dial of Destiny, which is in the title. So, and then finally, basically name any of the characters or creatures that Miriam Margolyes or Bernard Cribbins has played throughout the Doctor Who universe.
Grandad.
Yeah,
that counts, right?
Wilfred Mott, I would take. Grandad.
Well done, Cody Tane.
Any others?
Yeah, he was also in the 1960s Dalek Invasion of Earth film.
That's
although I cannot remember his character name. Actually, my childhood self, will be ashamed of me. But Roy Castle played the character in the first film, and then Bernard Cribbins was in the second film. But I can't remember the name of the character.
The character's name, and I thought I would just check this because I couldn't remember either, is Tom Campbell in the Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. And also, Miriam Margolyes has also appeared as the voice of Meep in the 60th anniversary, as well as she's a Slitheen in the big audio called Frau Todd, but I had to Google that bit. But there's a number of things going on as we. I'm glad to see that kind of geekiness is happening alongside the geekiness of the studio.
Tangential geekiness.
Yeah. That's good. So, how many answers did we get?
Depends how mean you're being, to be honest, Mark.
Say that again, David.
Slightly depends on how many points you get for the Miriam Margolyes.
One each for everyone, and I'm going to be generous, Becca. I'll give you one for the year.
Thank you.
And I'll give you
Shall
one.
We get one for Donna's granddad, because she does call him granddad often, doesn't she? So
yes. I'll be generous.
I got 3 then. 3 out of 5. That's not bad. Well, it's not 3 out of 5. That was it. It's 3 out of.
No, it's fine. 8, it's fine.
Something.
Yeah, I think I got 5 points and lost 2 badly.
Well done, Cody.
No, that's well done. Okay, and then we're just going to delve a little bit into the Geek Gallery, and then we're going to launch a bit more into Doctor Who. Is that all right?
That sounds marvellous.
Fantastic. I feel really bad that a lot of people got 1 point in all that. Sorry, folks.
You know what we've missed? We've missed the Quizalicious fade. Hang on. This is 4 seconds of joy. Worth it.
Let's bring it on and do this. So, Geeky Gallery, it's been happening over the last week or so. So we've got like a few kind of little bits and pieces. Specky Geek has been sharing the Magic the Gathering games, as well as a little bit of retro gaming. I can't even identify what that game is on the
No, I can't either.
But some like cool little platformer. We then have Mendip Nomad with some of his judges, as well as the Battle Combat Patrol. That's looking pretty cool. And then we're going to go into a little bit of Lego.
Nice.
Lego is just, again, it's quite festive, isn't it? Well, especially these festive sets. In fact, I should be adding audio, descriptions for people on audio, shouldn't I? So Mendip Nomad has got a nativity Advent wreath, Lego Advent wreath, and then there's some kind of Christmas festive houses and scenes, as well as there's like a little scene from Specky Geek, which is kind of the Millennium Falcon, I think, with Ray and Chewie and the other chap.
BB-8.
Forgotten.
BB-8.
Yeah. And I've forgotten the other guy, but yes. So that's them. As well as then we've got Lydia sharing a little bit about Mark and sharing some coloured rainbow lights in a church for a kind of a carol service, I do believe. And then there's a fantastic little moo written on the windscreen in snow, or
moo,
kind of carved out of the snow on the car, which again, festive lights and kind of multicoloured lights again is quite kind of nice, and it's one of those times of year where you can get away with it, can't you, really? So that is all good. And then I think that is... Oh, yeah. And then we've got a new person in our Discord community, which is no name other than 597912. Welcome.
That's a geeky name.
597912. And these are some of the books that they've been reading. And that is just your little reminder as well that you can join our Discord group. That there is a little link in the... it's Cody. Fantastic. We just didn't know Cody because it was just a name.
No, we just
fair
didn't
enough.
know.
That's okay. Welcome, Cody, to our Discord. And it's just a little advert there that if you want to be part of the community, part of the community on Discord, then follow the link or find Faith in Geekery, and or follow us here, watch us live, or follow us on the podcast too. And I think that
so many ways. You can't really escape the geekiness. We're coming for you.
Yes, absolutely. So that is the usual things out of the way with, and we now come to our Doctor Who special. So, David, I guess we should ask the question of when did you first get into Doctor Who?
Well, I was thinking about this, and it is a slightly distressing answer for me, because the first, not very, but you're talking about the Radio Times, and one of my first artifacts from Doctor Who is was 1983, and the Five Doctors. And upstairs, I still have the front cover of the Radio Times from November 1983 cut out. So I was 6 then, which means that I've now been a Doctor Who fan for 40 years, which makes me feel quite old. Yeah, so quite a long time, really.
But very cool.
That is very cool.
So. For most of my life, that has not been the case, of course. I spent quite a lot of my childhood being bullied for being a Doctor Who fan. And it's been delightful since 2005 to sort of have at least some people think it might be okay to like Doctor Who, rather than being something that made you stand out as the odd kid, essentially, for a lot of my life.
I know. We feel that pain, David. We're there with you.
So I'm going to ask a question as well about, so was it the Five Doctors that really kind of spoke to you, or was there, we often say, well, who is your doctor? Who is the one that you kind of felt kind of, well, either you watched first or that you felt a bit of a closeness towards?
Yeah, so my Doctor is not the first one I watched. So in the Five Doctors, obviously, I had lots to choose from, but it was really the Sixth Doctor who I always describe as my Doctor, Colin Baker, which basically makes me the odd one out of the odd ones out in that case. Because even if you did talk to Doctor Who fans in that period, if Colin Baker was your Doctor, you were still a pariah. So that worked really well for me. But yeah, Colin Baker's my Doctor, and I absolutely love the fact that he had obviously a very difficult time on telly, the Sixth Doctor, and wasn't popular and got cancelled and all that kind of stuff. But on audio now, in Big Finish, he's really coming to his own, the Sixth Doctor, and is now one of the most popular Doctors in audio. So that's wonderful, warms my heart.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really good. And so Doctor Who, you've kind of enjoyed it throughout all the years. Have you gone back and watched kind of some of the old ones, or?
Oh yes. So yeah, I'm fairly, in some ways, I'm a very stereotypical Doctor Who fan, because upstairs I do have every episode that's been released on DVD, and every episode that's been released on Blu-ray, and all of the Big Finish main series ones. So I have a look, which is very typical of very geeky Doctor Who fans. So yeah, absolutely. And some Doctor Who fans are, you can get into tribes quite easily, and so, but I've never really been integrated into fandom in that way. So I've always been a solitary Doctor Who fan, really. I think there are lots of us around, though, lots of Doctor Who fans who are, where it is quite defining for us, but actually we haven't been meeting up with people all through that time. It is something I essentially mostly do with me and the TV, or me and the audio. I don't, Mark accepting and a few friends, I don't actually live in a community of Doctor Who very much, really, which is interesting.
And so I mean, for me, I'm trying to hold back, because I think because I've seen some of your collection of stuff, David, and so therefore I'm not wanting to ask the obvious questions. I want to kind of keep on kind of being quite stood back and kind of then start to narrow in a little bit. I remember being at your house when we watched the 50th anniversary, and the moment of kind of there was this kind of reverential awe, and I think we even discussed about kind of should we talk during or otherwise, and there was a group of us there, wasn't there, just to be able to kind of gather and watch. That was my peak sociability of Doctor Who ever, having actual living people to my house who weren't in my family to watch Doctor Who. That was quite something. And I wouldn't say we bought a 3D television just to watch that 3D episode, but we did basically buy a 3D television just to watch that 3D episode. But it was a good episode. And it's
doing very well. It's the only TV I've ever bought, and it's still working fine. But,
marvelous.
But it was probably a bit of a stretch just for the one episode.
It's commitment.
Becca, were you ever into Doctor Who?
Yeah, absolutely loved Doctor Who. I was the child that ran around the back garden with the very, very, very long scarf, feeling really quite cool. And And yeah, my dad, I think, still preaches. There we go. There is the scarf held up to the camera. My dad still preaches about the fear of him first seeing the Daleks, and then when I became a mum, I was always the one that wanted to watch it. And I think Alex, who is now 17, came in, but at the time he was only 2. And he came in when I was watching an episode of the Oods. And for months after, he would tell anybody who listened, I saw a Ood. And he'd been so traumatized by this spaghetti-faced alien. I saw a Ood. So yes, I have been an avid fan. Ace was my favorite companion in the 80s. I just really resonated with her. She was so spunky. It's not a word I don't normally use, but yes.
I mean, there was a bit of an anarchic. No, what's the word? Is that right? Kind of spirit about her. The kind of the leather jacket, the baseball bat. There was, kind of. There was a bit of kind of down with the
cheeky.
system.
Yeah, yes. I think she wasn't like Sarah Jane, who was a fairly stereotypical female companion who was there to big up the Doctor. Ace felt like she was doing something different, that she'd challenge and she'd quit back, and she just had that spirit about her that I found really inspiring.
I mean, it's interesting for me. I remember the Sylvester McCoy, and that was my kind of Doctor as such. And that's the one that I kind of first watched, and running around very metal, dingy, kind of almost like flat, like kind of stairwells and things like that. And I don't know, it was interesting because I definitely got the scare factor. It didn't kind of overly wow me. I think it was really with Paul McGann's TV movie where I sat down to watch it, kind of, hearing a bit of the hype of the old Doctor Who, because obviously in those days I didn't have anything on VCR sort of stuff. It was only kind of rewatches a bit. And for me, kind of, I could see the potential in the film. And I remember when I first watched it, I thought, there's potential there. They've got a bit of weird and a bit strange with it. But I could see, wouldn't it be nice if it came back? Wouldn't it be nice to kind of revisit? And I think that's where it kind of planted the seed for me of Paul McGann's Doctor. And I know it was kind of it was bought by whatever, is it US America or BBC America or whatever it was, or something in America. That the kind of it sowed the seed for me. And so Paul McGann stood out to me more so than Sylvester McCoy, but the film itself was fairly bad. But then, so when kind of Christopher Eccleston came back, I was right there, and I was just like, yeah, I'm watching this. I'm going for it. I want to support them as best as I could. But
that's
then
really interesting because I think people sometimes, because it is popular now in many ways, I think people sometimes forget how unliked it was in some sectors before it came back.
Yeah.
And my brother was interviewing Russell T Davies a few weeks ago, which is a story in itself. But he was saying that he was worried, Russell T, when they were thinking of bringing it back, because of all of the papers and people were talking about possible actors who might play the new Doctor once it was announced. And the papers were all thinking like Paul Daniels. And this kind of casting, Russell T was like, if this is what they expect this show to be, sort of like essentially hopeless, then they've got a mountain to climb. And only really when they announced that it was going to be Christopher Eccleston, who is obviously a movie star already, that stage, suddenly he said the conversations changed and agents would suddenly be willing to actually consider having their people on it, whereas up to that point, they were talking to people and they were saying, no way, why would I want to be involved with that that farrago?
Yeah. Why did Christopher Eccleston say yes? Was he a Doctor Who fan before?
I think that's a very complicated question, but
thank you.
No, it is. But I think there are several things. But he'd worked with Russell T Davies before on that. Do you remember there was a thing called Second Coming, which was very like a sort of Messiah complex type program. So he worked on that. So I think he knew he was a really good writer. And I think Christopher Eccleston always says that that's what he needs. He needs really good writing, and then he'll believe in it and do it. So that was part of it. But also, I think he really wanted to. He's talked about wanting to have a working class hero, basically, that he didn't want to have kind of all heroes being like rich and famous and upper class, and that all that stuff about like every planet has a north and that kind of stuff. He wanted to sort of represent like normal hero. So I think he achieved that pretty well.
Yeah. He's so charming in that cheeky, chappy, big ears, stupid grin, gangly. He's just almost what Matt Smith then did again with that bouncy puppy dog type doctor. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Matt Smith had a lot of Patrick Troughton in him, really. That if people haven't seen the Patrick Troughton, now everything's available on iPlayer for people in the UK at least. You can now go and watch.
If you've got a TV license.
If you have a TV license, yes, you do have to have a TV license for that. But it's Patrick Troughton is wonderful if you haven't seen him, and Matt Smith definitely is very familiar.
I think he won me. I was absolutely distraught when David Tennant said his last "I don't want to go," and then Matt Smith just bounces in, and I was like, oh, maybe I can do something completely different. And I think that's one of those things that I really like is that each time they've just won me over with this new character, new leader, new way of being, which is just really interesting.
I think for me, having kind of Christopher Eccleston was all right. I thought it was really good to pick up the torch and run with it. I understand there was a bit of politics why he stepped down anyway, and his relationship with Russell T Davies in the studio was broke down. But kind of David Tennant stood in as he kind of came in. I just thought he just sung. He just kind of went for it, and I really felt as if they couldn't better that really. But then kind of when Matt Smith came in, I remember my friend saying kind of like, oh yeah, I can't wait, Matt Smith is going to be brilliant, it's going to be brilliant. And I was there going, but he ain't David, who is he? It's not David. He's not David.
Not David.
And then by the end of that first episode, I was like, you know what? He's not. And that's all right. Let's see.
I mean, it took big shoes to be able to step into that. That was there's not many people that could have carried that, but he did, and he did it by being not David Tennant. And that's exactly what we needed.
And it's interesting that my mate, so basically when I was at uni the second time round, me and Rich, we did some Doctor Who spoofs which are available on YouTube. They're really bad quality, and that was the first time I built a TARDIS.
BBC.
That was the first time I built a big TARDIS, and then but basically he told me that, because I used to kind of chat to him a bit about it and like when the next kind of Doctor Who was coming, and he told me that he was there going, after David Tennant, he was there going, oh, Peter Capaldi would nail it. And they were like, oh, yeah. And then it's just like, oh, Matt Smith, and then the next time when it was like Peter Capaldi, I was just like, yeah, you were right. Really good, really good.
Very smart, very smart.
So we've had a few comments from Lydia, but yeah, I think, but this is it, I think the changes of faces of the Doctor enable people to kind of dip in and become more connected, I think, and I really kind of love the way that obviously the longevity of the show, 60 years, that is the longest sci-fi program. It is an establishment, isn't it? An institution, but it means that the next generation and the next generation and the next generation can all kind of find their pace, and Doctor Who can also respond to the culture that it's in, and can kind of, be, and literally that you can get the actor to be the Doctor for that generation, whilst kind of adding to what has gone in the past. And I kind of really like that kind of that dynamic of what it can be. I think I hope you don't mind. I think we're going to put a pin in that kind of thought for a bit, and I think because there is potential to kind of explore theology a bit and God a bit about that. But I've realised that I kind of got David on here, and we haven't talked about any props or anything or any keepsakes.
We want to see your treasure trove, David.
I can
Whip
do that.
them out.
So I have a few little treasured things. This to start with. So this
Not
is
the radiator
cover. So this is from the very, very short-lived Doctor Who crisps that Golden Wonder did for in I think 1985 or 1986, and so this is some little tiny comic strips that were literally in the bag of crisps. So how on earth I managed to keep that in reasonable condition for like 35 years, I have no idea. But so that's
so
that was a little crisp magazine that had Colin Baker on the front, was it?
Yeah, yes. So it's Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor, my Doctor, but a bit random, to be honest, to have kept it all this time. Slightly. The 80s was the time that taste forgot in so many ways, and the next two items I think really show that. What is the cheesiest kind of tie-in that you can imagine for Doctor Who? I think these might be close to that. So this is the famous
Spotlight.
Doctor Who cookbook.
Thank you.
Doctor Who cookbook.
Nice.
Yeah. So with real terrible recipes. So basically,
can you give us an example of a recipe in there?
I can. So this is John Scott Martin, who was one of the original Dalek operators. Dalek bake with exterminate topping. So it exterminates 4 humanoids, it says, which I think is basically fish pie.
Katie.
Turlo, I think that the Brigadier did, Nicholas Courtney did Steak Diane. So it's really, and there's Colin Baker in the kitchen cooking up his recipe there. That is pretty bizarre, really. And
nice.
The recipes are practical.
I like it.
It's very much like one of those church kind of magazines that people produce, where everyone puts in a recipe, and some of them work and some of them don't. So just like that with all Doctor Who actors and producers, totally random. And then the other one that's kind of sort of similarly odd, also from the 80s, is this Doctor Who pattern book, which is knitting and kind of craft works, sewing. There is, of course, a Tom Baker scarf pattern in there, but also some delightful jumpers and other type things. Complete with your kind of like your knitting pattern type things. It's a very, very useful. Although I did make my dear departed nanny make me about 7 different things from it in about 1985 or 6. So that was great fun.
Oh, that's so cute.
And then I thought I'd really bring the geek. So this is a Commodore 64 tape game.
Wow.
Doctor Who Minds of Terror. Also Sixth Doctor. And so it's long since unplayable, as I no longer have a Commodore 64 or a tape player with which to run it. But I have not got rid of it, as you can see. Still have the tape in there. So that's I thought that was appropriately geeky. So I can see some of our watchers had Amigas, so that's I think this was also on Spectrum. I think it was pre-Amiga. So there was an Amiga game as well, though, actually, with Sylvester McCoy a bit later. My oldest bit of merchandise is this. This is the 1965 Doctor Who annual, so it does predate me a little bit. And this is back from when you could get good bits of merchandise from second-hand shops, charity shops, and it was from the 60s. Well, now definitely this would obviously be on eBay and being bought by some American for a lot of money.
We haven't got a problem with Americans in general.
No, we love Americans. We love Americans. It just
Some Americans.
increases the price of
Yes.
these
Yeah.
It's market.
Yeah.
It's a market-driven thing.
Yeah,
Capitalism.
Absolutely. So whereas this was 50p in charity shop in sometime in the late 80s. So yeah, that's great fun. And my weirdest bit, I thought I'd bring weird. So geeky and then weird. So this is my pride and joy, really.
Oh,
I don't know how
webcam's
many.
frozen. Webcam's frozen, but is the suspense?
It's just pride and joy.
Oh.
So this is very odd. This is I don't know how many people remember Davros, the
Yes.
leader or inventor of the Daleks. So this is a Davros toy. I don't know if you can see it at all.
Yes.
But basically, if our viewers may notice something a bit odd about this model, can you see anything that's odd about this model?
Definition is a little bit. Is it because he's got two hands or something? What is it?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mark. So
yeah,
Davros only has one hand in the stories, but when they made this model, they made it with two hands. And so this is an extremely unusual model because they realized fairly quickly that they'd been making this model wrong. So what they did was they basically took all the original ones they'd made, and then this is my later model. You almost certainly won't see this on the camera, unfortunately, but basically what they did was they just got a hot knife and cut one of the arms off. So this actually has one arm now, one hand, but if you look closely, which you definitely can't see on the webcam, then but basically they have just cut off the hand of the models they've made, and then so it's just got this thing. So that's my one-handed and two-handed Davros.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Like
Brilliant. I love it. I love a treasure trove of geekiness.
And I thought I better we better mention all that because I knew that David would come out with the goods. I've just got a myriad of sonic screwdrivers. Sonic screwdrivers.
How do I spotlight you?
Yeah,
as well as
there we go.
As well as a Cyberman helmet as well.
So sad.
We can really freak out Becca.
Right, do it both. That's just terrifying, isn't it? It's just, I have the only Doctor Who memorabilia is a Christmas decoration that I've not yet unpacked.
I don't know how your kids are, Mark, but my kids really hate those masks. They are now at sort of 6 and 8, absolutely terrified of them. If you put them on and walk towards them, they freak.
Mine are always just on top of the shelves, so they're not allowed to touch them.
Very well. Mine is broken, doesn't work. The voice change just doesn't work.
I've not even tried to turn it on for ages. Anyway, so I thought we were just going to do a little bit of a show as well.
Show and tell.
A bit of show and tell, indeed. Because I think you also referenced really quickly in there as well, David, about there feels this is a real heartfelt community at the centre of Doctor Who, where people who have worked on the show or around for kind of big audio really kind of they become part of it, don't they? And they really get involved, and it's really kind of quite meaningful of how they kind of really look after and respect and kind of get brought under the wings of the kind of Big Finish audio, but also kind of the show. I think it's just really quite a special program, really. Don't get me wrong, I think there are times and there are unfortunate stories and situations where people, as part of the kind of, as all kind of long running TV shows or BBC things, that there are unfortunate stories as well, but broadly speaking, I think there is kind of a real community at the heart of Doctor Who and the kind of Big Finish audio. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. I think in the modern Doctor Who, that's partly because so many of the people that make it were fans as children, and that is a bit unusual, really. It's a bit unique. Other than sort of things like Sherlock Holmes and things like that, there are not really things that have lasted that long that people, when they were young, could then have it as their job. So I think the ultimate example of that for me is probably Nicholas Briggs, who is the voice of the Daleks in all of the modern audios, but essentially was a fan. And in the gap when it wasn't being made, he made sort of fan audios and worked out how to do the audio, worked out how to do the Dalek sound effects, and sort of copied the original voice actors. And he now basically in his head he does the old voice actors. He'll say, "Oh, I'm doing I can't remember the names, but a Hawkins Dalek or whatever." And when they came to make the new ones, essentially Russell T Davies went to him and said, "Well, you should do it because you know how to do it, and it will save us a lot of research if you just bring your ring modulator and able to do it, and also you love it, so why not?" So his whole career really is based on his childhood love, which is really nice.
Thank you. I knew that you had that story. I couldn't remember all the details of it, so I'm really glad that you shared that. But I think this is it, and I think I'd like to take that pin back out again now of the kind of the theology of. I find that Doctor Who is a real opportunity to explore kind of modern fandom, modern kind of family and traditions of, that you kind of, there is that expectation of seeing, like, even now, we're looking forward to obviously the last of the 60th anniversary editions, but then there'll be the Christmas special. It has the ability to draw the generations together. And I just love that idea that Doctor Who continues to reflect and change, and I think there's always going to be haters, but I just love the fact that they've kind of modernized, they've taken a step back, and like the reference, I know that it's not gone down well with some people about kind of Russell T Davies updating Davros to not being disabled in effect. I think it's one of these things of, it's just really healthy to be able to kind of reimagine and reimagine kind of Doctor Who for a new generation. And that for me just speaks testament of church, of that each generation comes. I know tradition is there to carry it, the core fans are there to carry it, and the merchandise is there to carry it, but actually it does really well to reinvent itself for a fresh generation. And I think church can learn a lesson from that, and kind of say, actually, what, as much as it is for us, it should be for the next generation and for the next generation. And I feel as if that church could really learn a couple of lessons from Doctor Who.
But what is that lesson, Mark? Because as fans, we receive the new Doctor as it's been written by someone else. We don't have to do anything. We either consume or we don't consume. There's no adjustment that we have to make that Doctor work with the fans. It's just like it or lump it. So as I was talking about, that transition from one Doctor to the next Doctor to the next Doctor, that each one is bringing their own characteristics, their own thing. And that's the same in any community where a new person comes in. Things significantly shift, but also you hold on to, the kind of the things that were precious. And there is something about that church history and that shift as we change from community to community, that for ministers, for itinerant ministers especially, there's something about that change where, in order for it to fully work, it needs to be accepted by the fandom. And I think I'm equating your average church congregation to a Doctor Who fandom right now. I'm not quite sure what it is that helps us transition from the next, other than we know it's going to happen.
But I think that's just one specific person, and I'm not trying to equate myself to a doctor as a minister, even though I may have done that in a final farewell letter to a congregation.
Did you say I don't want to go?
No, I said you've been brilliant. I think there is something there about the church, broadly speaking, kind of for a next generation, trying to engage with those on the fringe of church, those on the beyond of church,
Yeah.
those trying to sort of say, actually, how is the gospel relevant to
Yeah.
today, rather than just kind of doing
the
what we've always
messaging
done.
and the storytelling. Yeah.
Even the Doctor himself, though, in a way, that the character obviously has to land in different places and different times, and has to kind of bring his own being,
Wardrobe.
his own wardrobe, definitely. I'll just keep on with the props. His own wardrobe, and generally just work out how to be himself in that different place, and that's kind of. But that's one of the things I think that is great about Doctor Who, is that the Doctor doesn't, he or she, with Jodie, is a stranger and an alien, and not of this world, but improves the situation they find themselves in, and so I think there's quite a lot of kind of faith in that, really, of kind of going where you're put, for you as itinerant ministers, going where you're sent, but remaining yourself, and kind of being a positive influence in the place that you are called to, but without compromising your own being and your own person. And that's what the Doctor does, really.
Yeah, being driven by values. That's an incredibly. I blinked and then the fez appeared. It was like magic just happened in front of my eyes.
I don't think you blinked. I think that the web camera froze and you went from being without a fez to being with a fez, and it was in a brilliant moment. that almost got it, but that was brilliant. Yeah, so fantastic fez as well, David. Yeah, I just think that Doctor Who really can speak to us on that deeper level of faith and reinvention, and keeping the core message the same. That I hope that people can see that the Doctor and the Doctor's face can change, the wardrobe can change, but actually there can be a nod, and there can be an awareness of what has gone on in the past, but actually to keep true to the Doctor Who kind of narrative, even if it does mean kind of some bits are left to one side, some bits are kind of brought to the foreground, and I quite like the fact that kind of Russell T Davies already has shown kind of this kind of, hey, we're new, we've got the new Disney budget, but actually there's a nod to the old, a nod to the past, and I really kind of like that the Easter eggs of the old Doctor Who. We haven't mentioned any of the 60th anniversary specials. I realise that, Becca, you haven't seen the latest one, but is there anything to say about those, kind of, David? I would say that we've got a few more minutes to talk before we come to an end.
Yeah. Well, I think they are both very different, which is good. So the first one very much a kind of traditional kind of rompy story, and for those who don't know, it is based on a Tom Baker comic strip from like 1981. So they kept the basic story pretty as it was, slightly changed, but the actual meat herself is straight from that, and so that's great fun. And then the second one, which obviously, without too many spoilers, is much more unsettling, and great. I mean, really fun and different, and a puzzle. And my favourite kind of Doctor Who story, personally, is what sometimes gets called Sherlock Holmes in space, where basically the Doctor is trying to solve something, some mystery, some problem. So, like in Tom Baker, I really like several of the ones that are like that, Robots of Death particularly, but this one is a bit like that. It's a mystery that needs to be solved. So yeah, I hope people enjoy it a lot.
I'm going to say, that was one of the few ones on iPlayer. I watched all 4 parts of it. I caught up with that one.
That is probably my actual favourite. Certainly one of my top 5 stories.
Very good, very good. That was unplanned. But I also like the fact that, and again, I hope this is a potential little bit of a spoiler, but not too much of one, is that the sonic screwdriver isn't in use in a big plot kind of way, because I think that is also sometimes it's the MacGuffin, it's the, oh no, we're stuck in this place, here's the sonic screwdriver, hey, I can even show you one, here's the sonic screwdriver, and kind of fix
Mark
it.
holds a
in the
sonic
day.
screwdriver in his hand.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always been the case, incidentally. He's like K9 as well. K9 was way too useful, so they kept on having to like crash him into lakes or leave him on a table, or because the answer to the problem can't always be K9 shoots the baddie and it's all over. That's a bit too much of a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah. So I think I thought it was really good. The second one, again, no spoilers on that, but I was also quite I was also quite kind of glad the way that they kind of explored the first anniversary one of kind of just meeting things on the face about pronouns and gender. You know, the kind of this is Doctor Who for the latest generation. I was also a little bit taken aback with the whole kind of the budget from Disney and everything from the TARDIS spinning through the kind of the space and time vortex of the dust particles as it flicks up, and I'm there going going, oh my gosh, you know, this is. I mean, it's like this isn't just high. This isn't just kind of high.
This isn't just Doctor Who.
This is Disney kind of high resolution. Oh, you know, and then kind of like just David Tennant with his kind of sonic screwdriver creating a display, and then also using like this kind of hexagonal what's the word? Hexagonal kind of force field, you know, and like pushing it, and I'm like kind of going, oh my gosh, is this, you know, is this? But
did we like that? I thought it was done. It wasn't done too much in your face, but it wasn't BBC Doctor Who.
If they did that all the time, it'd be a problem. But I think it's really important for Doctor Who that it doesn't rely on special effects. But that doesn't mean you can't have them. So the first Dalek story is available to watch in colour at the moment, which is great fun. They've colorized it from 1963-4. But in that, they only had 5 Daleks. And so if they needed more than 5 Daleks in shot, then the rest are all just cardboard cutouts. And now you can really see that they're just cardboard cutouts. But at the time, it's much more blurry and nobody really noticed. And it just looked like an army of Daleks. I think it's really important that Doctor Who can do that, and you just have to believe it. But nevertheless, it's quite nice to have some, good special effects, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't hate it.
But I did like, though, the kind of the little nods, the little Easter eggs to kind of previous Who, so kind of resonating concrete. I really like that kind of thing. Chris Freckleston's Doctor was talking about, should get to do resonate concrete at some point. Then there's also the what was I going to say? I also really loved the little thing that the creators of the comic book, if you watched on the Doctor Who special thing, they got shared titles at the very beginning of Doctor Who to say like they created it. And I was just like, as in because they invented the meep back in the day sort of thing. I was just really kind of, my heart was kind of lifted a bit to see their names on the kind of the top billing sort of thing, and I was just like, that's really good, and I think that's a real good thing to have done as well. So even behind the scenes, they seem to be doing a good thing and kind of setting the bar high again for what we can kind of look forward to.
How you treat people, and
I am aware that we're kind of running over time. It's just because I really love Doctor Who. But yeah, no, I think I think Doctor Who is fantastic, and thank you, David, for coming to join us. Is there anything final to say before we drop you off the screen?
No, I look forward to Shooty Gatwa. Maybe we should have a redo once that's launched in the new year. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, no, it's been
you're always welcome.
Absolute pleasure, thank you, David, and I look forward to watching the Doctor Who special on Saturday with you. So that'll be really fun. Yes, bye for now. I'll drop you off. And Becca, anything left to say or otherwise?
There's something about, and I don't want to talk about David when he's off screen because I can see him right down there. There's something about those of us that really loved sci-fi stuff, especially in the 80s and 90s, where there was a sense of not belonging. But it's not that it's got better. It's just that something shifted in what we need as community, as society, where that story has stood up to time. And actually, those of us that are willing to gather together around the story are finding our people. And I think more so as we're able to choose more and more what we watch on television, what we listen to on the radio. It's all curated by the algorithms that have picked up that I've now been talking about Doctor Who, so my phone's heard that, so they'll now give me adverts for whatever into the future, my next time machine. That gathering together and finding your people just feels really special. It feels special to talk about Doctor Who in a Faith in Geekery special on Doctor Who. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah, and that, all these things, don't they? They enable us to explore kind of life, death, adventure, as well as kind of reinvention. And it's just a privilege to have these sort of milestones and anchor points that kind of are present in our life, that we have the privilege of being able to kind of watch these things fresh, and I was excited to tell the kids, it's like, oh, there's a new Doctor Who. They don't even watch it, but they were happy for me, that there's a new Doctor Who coming out. I've started to introduce them gently to a couple of little bits and pieces. The
What
Mr. Men
is Doctor Who?
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's U or PG. Like some of the ones are PG, but my kids love the Mr. Men Doctor Who volumes. So Ruben will be like, "Is this the 9th? Is that the 10th?" And all that kind of stuff. So kind of education starting young. Anyway,
Nice.
but it has been a pleasure tonight, Becca, as always. And thanks, folks, for listening. Yes, thank you for David. Thank you for everyone commenting. Thank you for those who kind of listen to us later on in the week and who catch up. And just a reminder there at the bottom about Discord as well. So thanks folks. Thank you, commenters and people part of the community. It's been an absolute pleasure. So remember to geek safe.